today we really want to talk to you, myself and Emma, about our journey as an IT organization. So I represent SUSE IT, and our journey with our own product, i.e. SUSE AI. But before we get into that, let's tell you a little bit about ourselves. Emma, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah. So yeah, as Andrea mentioned, this was a great collaboration that we want to talk to you about between the products and the IT team. So myself, I'm on the products and tech side as product portfolio operation, but what I do is really like help the product managers and the tech team to get a product from the beginning, from the like birth of the product to fruition. So it was really interesting journey to do that, and AI products are especially exciting about that because they move so fast. So it was a great opportunity to collaborate with IT.
Fabulous. And I'm Andrea, as I said, and I am part of the internal IT team. I work as part of the IT transformation team, and I'm really, really interested in making sure that our colleagues in SUSE have the right tools to be able to manage their processes and to be able to offer a great service to their customers. So AI for me gives a really, really exciting opportunity for us to enable our colleagues and to be able to grow our business. Right, so having introduced ourselves, what are we going to talk about today? So today we really want to talk a little bit about our shared journey. We're going to talk a bit about where we started, our starting point. We're going to talk a bit about the decisions we had to make as an IT team, i.e. when it comes to AI, do we want to buy or do we want to build? Emma's going to help us talk through some of the examples, some of the challenges that we faced along the way. And then we're going to give some examples of some of the work that we've done so far. So we as IT, unique opportunity for us to be a customer. So I don't know, any IT people in the audience? No IT people. Jochen at the back, he's our CIO. There we go. Right, so I think you've all been to most of the keynotes, right, over the course of this week. So a bit of test your knowledge to see how well everybody's been listening. Anybody able to share with us some of the challenges that IT organizations are facing at the moment? You've heard about them. Cost? Great. What was it? Doing more with less, right? A lot of people have spoken about. Any other challenges you think are facing IT teams? Need to modernize, that's great. Heard about that. Need to change. Absolutely. And I think SUSE, we're no different as an IT team, right? We need to grow and we need to be a great service partner for our customers. And to that end, I thought before we go into anything, let me share a little bit about us as a team and how we approach things. So these are our IT goals. These are the things that we want to promise to our internal customers. And we kind of start off at the very far corner. We want to transform the IT experience, right? We don't want to be those people who, when you phone us, we go, have you switched it off and on again? Yeah? We don't want to be those people anymore, right? And to do that, we need to make sure we've got good security, that we can provide a competitive edge. We need to make sure that we embrace innovation. We need to help our business maximize their cost. And we need to grow a great IT workforce. So, where does AI come into this? And how does it help us? So, we started off, like many other organizations, huge buzz around AI. We were inundated with people wanting to use AI and to use AI tools. We had demands, we had tickets, we had phone calls. And for those of you who know SUSE, everybody loves to try new things. Everybody wanted a piece of AI. Everybody wants to try it out. So we really had to start somewhere. So as you see, we know what our goals are, we know what our strategy is. The second thing we had to do was really understand our use cases, we had to understand our business, and we had to understand the problems that they were bringing to us. And they've got a long list. At the moment, I think I'm sitting with a backlog of about 82 use cases for people wanting AI solutions. That's just on our stack internally as SUSE AI. And so we had to find a way to say, how do we evaluate these use cases? How do we decide what we want to tackle? And how do we decide what tools we get? And how do we decide how to support our business? So we had to sort of determine some use case acceptance criteria. And we start there from the very basic. Can AI actually solve this problem? In many cases, it can't, right? The next thing is this area actually ready for an AI solution? And that might depend on the internal data and the processes and the capability of the team. And once we've gone through those, it's the usual questions of how much business value can we offer. So this is really where we started. So we narrowed it down, and we've now got a whole lot of use cases. So then we have to decide, right, how do we find solutions, and how do we support our business? And this is the question. Do we buy, or do we use SUSE AI, our own internal offering? So what we did was, like a lot of people like to do when you've got a problem, right, you draw up a list, and you look at the pros and cons. And we say, what are the pros and cons of buying? What are the pros and cons of building our own solution? And I'm not going to go through each of these line by line as a list, but let's talk about them generally. I think what you can possibly see that we've done is we've aligned our decision making to our IT goals. What is it that we want to do? Very important. First of all, we look at cost, right? And I think we've heard a lot today about POCs, the number of POCs that people are conducting. We have to remember that POCs are a cost. So even before we buy anything, we have to spend money investigating the POC, we have to run our checks, and our business people who are involved in this POC, it is their time and money. So that's a consideration that we had to pay in mind. Do we go down the route of buying and choosing a number of POCs, or do we take the opportunity to build our own and almost have a test bed where we can build and iterate as we go? We had to look at the cost of hardware, right? If we want to build our own solution, it's expensive. We know we've just invested and it's not cheap. So how do we actually make that decision, and how do we get the most value? And sometimes it's tempting to say, when you look at that cost of upfront hardware, to say, actually it's very tempting to buy, right? Because your monthly subscription cost might look very cheap in comparison. But we really have to look at the other costs that might be involved. What might our cost of integration be into the rest of our equipment? What is the cost of time to develop? What is the cost once we start using this solution when our costs start to skyrocket as more and more workload goes into our solution? So there are many things that we had to consider when we looked at cost. The other things that were really important to us were things like cost of risk. So how secure is the solution? It's very important to us. But also, what is the cost of risk with our vendors? What if we go to a vendor who's maybe not so well established, they get overtaken by somebody else who doesn't have the same values, security considerations as we do? What is the cost of us being locked into a contract when our business has outgrown the service that is offered? And finally, what's really important to us was, when we look as a transformational IT organization who want to offer value to our customers, does buying for now, delivering a solution for now, the same solution that many other people can go into the market and buy, does that give our business, our HR teams, our legal teams, our finance teams, does that give them the opportunity to create custom solutions that can give them a competitive edge in the market? Can our HR teams get a solution that can help them hire better and faster than everybody else who's potentially using the same solution in the market? So that was quite important for us. That links to how do we scale. And the final one for us was really building a progressive workforce. IT skills are in demand, right? Good people are hard to find. And the level of skill that you need to work in this arena is high, and it's constantly changing. There is a constant level of learning. So by building, do we actually have an opportunity to continuously upskill ourselves and grow our own skill, rather than constantly having to re-benchmark our skills, re-evaluate who we have, and rehire? Right, so that's quite a lot, isn't it, that we had to go through. Right, so what did we decide after all of that? So we've taken a kind of a three-pronged approach. At the very end, you can see we have already purchased some solutions, right? We do have some POCs in progress. Our goal is to really say, let's continue to consider what we've got, let's continue to work with it, and let's continue with some of the POCs that are valuable to us. I think Abhinav made a very good point earlier. He said, no one vendor is going to be able to provide you with every solution, right? And we recognize this. So we've also said we are going to have use cases that are so complex, and if you look at the end, where we are going to have to go to our partners and ask for support. And we're going to use the knowledge that IT have of our enterprise, of the systems and tools, and our partners, and our deep understanding of security and privacy to work with them to build solutions. But for the bulk of the use cases and the bulk of the services that we need to provide to our customers internally at SUSE, we look to our values. Our values around choice, around innovation, trust, and community, and we decided that perhaps giving our people an opportunity to build was going to be the best option for us. So how are we going to do that? Well, remember, we're IT. We like a bit of governance, right? So we need something that's going to have security, it's going to have observability, we're going to have good working progresses, we want to get feedback, and we need to continuously improve. So what we've decided to do is to create an innovation space that is going to be built on IT-owned hardware, IT-owned, access controls, good security, and we're going to then use the components of SUSE AI to offer everyone, not just IT, not just engineering, but we're going to offer everyone in SUSE an opportunity to use the space to create the solutions that they need. So now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Emma, and Emma's going to tell us a little bit about what it was like to have IT as a customer and talk about some of the challenges that we had and how we overcame them.
Yeah, so as mentioned, there was this great opportunity to have SUSE IT as our first customers. It's a great learning experience. As a product people, we call it kind of eat your own dog food. Literally yesterday, someone told me there's a more classy way to say that. It's drink your own champagne. But I'm French, so I have high standard for champagne. It wasn't there yet. So let's say we will still needed to work on it, and I will stay with the dog food analogy for now. But yeah, that was a great collaboration, a lot of learning, and it's not just testing the infrastructure, the products. It's about understanding the needs of IT, their concerns, understanding all the use cases they had collected, and also seeing them use the documentation, the onboarding, seeing the ease of use of the product. So it's a lot of learning for the product team that they can then give back to their customers, and it's also I think a good collaboration with SUSE IT, and so we were accompanying them in the journey, and they were able to ask us questions and see, okay, where do we support you as a SUSE AI product, and where maybe actually you need to find something else to help you there. So as I said, this was a journey. There was many challenges we needed to face, even in this build decision and this decision to use SUSE AI. So first thing, nothing can happen if you want to build your own AI solution if you don't have hardware. So that was actually a really big step to take, to be honest. You have executives saying why should we invest in hardware? Because this is, as Andrea mentioned, a big investment, upfront investment. So there's a lot of justification here, and you need to reassure the executive and all the teams that you're going to use this investment to the best of its capability. Then it's not just one product you're going to buy. It's not just one SaaS for one use case. You need to be able to offer support to multiple use cases. So you need to really find the right solution and to be flexible, as we said, and to give choice for different business units and really cover all of this. As we mentioned, IT skills are in demand. AI skills are in even higher demand. So this is also how do we give this AI expertise to your team? How do we grow their knowledge? And how do we give them space to experiment? And lastly, nothing of this can happen if there's no security and compliance. No one, no CIO, no CISO will let you start anything on this environment if there's no security and compliance. So this is kind of the most important part here that covers all the rest. But let's deep dive into the first one. So I think just this morning when they were asking like, who has a GPU? I only saw like a couple of hand raised, so I don't know if anyone here is the one that raised their hand saying, we do own a GPU. Do we have any of them? We own them too. So we're the one now owning the GPU, so we're really happy about that. But this was, as I said, quite of a journey because first thing, do you go on-premise or do you go on cloud? The reality we're facing is that we realized that there was actually a couple of employees that were already running their own like AWS GPU instances and playing with SUSE AI on it. But this wasn't covered and in the knowledge of the IT team. So like this was, like we collected all those use cases, we saw all the like opportunities and why it was worth investing in on-premise hardware. And there was also like many use cases that were constraints by legal requirements or like compliance requirements that required being on premises. There was even discussion saying like, do we really need GPUs? Because some use cases were not real-time. And like, well, we can do it on the CPU. So there was even this type of debate. And then once you decide to invest in this GPU, how do you keep the cost in check? So we said like, this morning you heard with the IDC analysts, costs are really important. So you need to find a way from the beginning to know how your investment is being used, and also how do you scale? Because, as we said, we're going to have multiple use cases. We're going to have like legal, finance, sales using the GPU. How do you make sure like all of them can use them? There's no like latency and everything is working well. So here, where SUSE AI can help on this. So the most important things, of course, it's in infrastructure that is optimized to be run on GPU. So this is the first good part. But the most important thing is observability. As you saw, like investing in GPU means you want to control the cost. IT wants to be like in the driver's seat here. And that's a good thing with SUSE AI from the beginning, with the first use case implemented, 3.10, like they will be able to look at the GPU usage, make sure like it's like of course there's like networks, there's everything, but even like the power that we saw, like we switched on the first keynote, so like all of this will be like under control and known from the beginning. And then it goes even into the AI apps themselves that will be developed. You will be able to, they will be able, as an IT organization, to look at, are they working well? Is there any latency? How do we fix them? So this is like the services they will get as they implement SUSE AI. So as we mentioned, many use cases. So that's another challenge. Like, how do you make sure you can have like the basic chatbots everyone wants to have, but I don't know how many sessions you were into, like the keynote this morning and maybe some other session, but now there's this agentic workflow trend also, like complexity with automation. So how do we make sure, like legal can do something, and then finance and sales and support, like everyone can do like the most complex process they need to do with our AI platform. So these were like one of the key questions we had. Andrea mentioned we have like 80 use cases listed here. So we need to consider all of them and make sure we can support them. And there's also like the LLM question. Now there's just not just one LLM. Everyone wants their own LLMs when they want to get it specific. Everyone wants to use the LLM on their own like corpus of documents. So this is the kind of flexibility also we need to give. And we need also to give the opportunity to like give different access to the different teams, because you don't want all employees to access the legal AI, where there's maybe some critical question or HR. So here, like the offer and the support that SUSE AI is able to provide is like the components. So we're not providing already built AI solutions, applications, but like the IT team can really from the beginning pick from those components. And it's not just upstream components. These are like validated, supported, and also like curated with like security and CVE and all of these components so that they can use them. So then there's the question, you have the hardware, you have like the components to build your AI application, but who does it? And that's quite a big question, and like that was kind of a big step to take also. So here, like, you have different options. You have the IT teams that can, of course, support, but they will have like limited resources. Like, we had great people like implementing the infrastructure, and then some people starting to build application, but then like any application, 82, how do we get all of those applications like set up? Hiring AI talent is complicated. And so, as Andrea mentioned, we wanted to like give an experimentation place to our employee and give them the opportunity to upskill. So this is where, like, actually I won't lie, like there's no software that will provide talents. There's no replacement for talents. This is not a feature in our products. But the reality is the flexibility we provide all of us to build these playgrounds that we wanted to build. So as a like customer or like someone from the, another IT org, you might have to decide this. Like, do you want to work with partners? As we mentioned this morning, like we're also building like a great network of partners so that you can also use SUSE AI working with a partner. Do you want to hire talents, or do you want to give opportunity to your teams to learn and grow? So this is where SUSE AI is good too, because, and that's where the collaboration was also so interesting, because as we were implementing the first use cases, we were able to learn what the IT teams wanted to do or what the business line wanted to do. And as we build like the first use cases, that's also where we build the blueprints that we mentioned this morning, like the agentic workflow blueprint. So like this is where the collaboration is really interesting, because what we implement with them, we use it also to build the parts of blueprint or green doc, as we call them. And kept the best for the last. So SUSE, as a company, have a lot of like compliance and certification to maintain. And of course, security is at the core of their need, and making sure like there's no data leak. Of course, at the data level, but then there's even like at the LLM level, making sure there's no misuse, there's no like wrong information. And so this is really critical. And like this is really at the core of the product. I would say like I was here from the beginning when the SUSE AI product was started, and that was the first positioning and differentiators that they wanted to put in place, like privacy, control, security, and compliance. So like many features in the product are related to that. And so some of them is like being able to analyze the LLMs. We talked about guardrails this morning. You have all the observability also and the ability to report on what's happening inside your AI like world that you implemented internally. So this really gives control to the IT team to like provide reports, audits, to work with the certification, legislation, and all these kind of compliance needs. So yeah, as you saw, like that was a learning experience, I think on both sides, quite a lot for learning for both of us. But this is still not done, so we still have a lot to go through. So Andrea will share with you like what are the next steps we have.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, it was a journey, and I feel sometimes we felt a bit like Groundhog Day, right? We were going around in circles, but we're getting there. Right, so what are we doing now? So we've got our hardware, we've started on this journey, and we've started to look at some use cases and seeing what we can build. So just to remind everybody, we've got our playground, our innovation space. So what are we actually using it for? So we decided to start with a very basic kind of solution. We went back to almost building, having a chatbot. This was something quite specific for our sales enablement teams. They wanted to access very specific information, very specific documents, so that they can actually start to plan their diaries, plan their client engagements, and plan those strategic sessions and timetables. And so this was our very first sort of innovation that we had. Very good opportunity for us to actually validate the data sources and the business processes. Good learning. The team were very organized. They had all of their data was sorted, and they had very clean business processes. We were able to create an opportunity to design different personas. So the persona example of an account manager would deal with a situation like this. A field salesperson would deal with the situation in a different way. And it gave us an opportunity to look at training an LLM. So this was a really good use case to start with. One of our most important learnings, funnily enough, was, we were talking about hardware, we were talking about capacity. We actually didn't have enough capacity in the cluster when we started this. So, we loaded our documents quite slowly, and we had some limitations. But good learning for us. The next one was a bit more advanced, and this is for our this idea came out of 3 different use cases that we've combined together. The first came from our brand team. They're obviously, like all brand teams, they want to make sure that the SUSE brand is represented correctly in all forms of content and across all platforms. So that's all social media, all web, documents that go out to customers. We have a marketing team who obviously write and produce content, but they are not the sole producers of content, right? If you're open source, content is produced all over the place. So they were keen to see, how do we actually check that our brand is represented correctly? We, as an IT team, in creating this playground, wanted to be sure that if people were creating documents or creating solutions, we're actually using the right SUSE personas and the right branding in the actual answers and solution that they gave. And then lastly, our cybersecurity team do an amazing job of actually going out and checking where the SUSE brand is potentially being used maliciously, and where people are actually, not giving great feedback or good feedback about the brand. So we wanted to say, how do we take data from all of these different perspectives and not only just be able to report on where there's issues, we need a feedback mechanism, right? We need to get back to the person who has created that content and give them a heads up. But we actually also don't want to just say, "Oi, you've not used the brand correctly," right? We want to say, this is how you should have used the brand, and give them the right content. And we need to be able to check that action has been taken, right? And we need to be able to report on the number of instances. Now, our marketing team are using an AI solution to help them generate content, but that isn't enough. They've said if they had to go out and the man hours that it would take them to manually review everything that is out there would probably take them about 40 to 50 people working full-time to constantly review and check everything that is published about SUSE and all of the content. So building this solution has given us an opportunity to build these agentic workflows that you've been hearing about, to build agents that are responsible for various parts of the journey, agents that are able to interact with each other to get information, and agents that are then able to feed back to us. And it's helped us learn how to sort of develop reporting and develop some of our workflows. So again, good learning experience for us. We've been able to give feedback to Emma and the team, and again, they've used that to build out those blueprints that you're going to be able to see and that our customers can use. Right. And then I just think, in closing, Emma, what have we learned? We've learned how to sort of understand and prioritize our business use cases. We've learned how to improve our scoping of our requirements. We've been able to start answering some important governance and policy questions. I have a governance and policy forum. I have representatives from all areas of the business. It's about 20 people, and they are constantly asking questions and what ifs. So we work through those. We're able to grow our skills. We're able to improve our feedback. And hopefully improve tool adoption, right? If everybody's got an interest in building and practicing, hopefully everybody's also keen to use their tools. Any other comments?
Oh yeah, and on the product team, as I mentioned, that was a learning experience. We were able to improve to make it easier. We realized also that it's good to provide all these components, but the experience of like deploying them and making them work together is critical. Whereas where we put the blueprint in place, and we're also working on like a kind of control plane to implement like the component and control them, and also connect to all like the AI, I would say, landscape that you can have also outside of those components. So yeah, still a lot to learn, still many collaboration to continue, and many more use cases to implement.
Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Any questions, come and shout, and hopefully we'll see you later on.
And if there's like detailed question about SUSE AI, you can go to the booth in the technical space.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.